Sarah Chun loved the mornings on New Eden. The twin suns painted the sky in soft purple and gold colors. She could hear the farmers starting their work in the fields nearby. The smell of fresh coffee came from the kitchen where her neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, always made extra for the research team. New Eden was everything Earth had promised when they built this colony. 2.5 million people called this place home. They grew crops that fed dozens of other worlds. Children played in parks built around the native crystal trees. Old soldiers who had fought in the Mars Wars came here to find peace with their families. Sarah was a scientist who studied alien plants and animals. She had been living on New Eden for 3 years. Every day, she discovered something new about this world. The planet seemed designed for life. Lakes of clean water reflected the purple sky. Forests of silver-leaf trees grew in perfect harmony with human settlements. That morning, Sarah was preparing for another expedition to the deep caves. Cave systems held the most interesting life forms she had ever seen. Tiny creatures that glowed in the dark. Plants that could sing when the wind touched them. She wanted to catalog them all before the next supply ship arrived from Earth. The children were walking to school when the ships appeared. Sarah was underground when it happened. She was studying a patch of glowing mushrooms deep in the limestone caves. Her equipment beeped as it recorded the mushrooms' light patterns. She was so focused on her work that she almost missed the first explosions. The ground shook. Dust fell from the cave ceiling. Sarah looked up, confused. New Eden didn't have earthquakes. The ground was stable. That was one reason humans had chosen this world. Her communication device crackled to life. Emergency broadcast to all citizens. Unknown vessels in orbit. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Sarah's hands trembled as she packed her equipment. The cave had a communication relay station. She could contact the surface and find out what was happening. As she climbed toward the cave entrance, the shaking got worse. Above ground, the people of New Eden looked up at the sky in terror. Massive ships hung in the atmosphere like dark clouds. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. Sharp angles and glowing red lights covered their hulls. The ships were so large they blocked out sections of the sky. The first energy beams came without warning. They struck the planetary defense station, turning it into melting metal in seconds. The communication tower vaporized. Then the beams turned toward the city's. Captain James Mitchell was commanding the orbital patrol station when the alien fleet appeared. He had been a soldier for 20 years before retiring to New Eden. He tried to contact the unknown ships. Unknown vessels, this is New Eden Control. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. The response came in perfect English, spoken by a cold, mechanical voice. You are humans. You do not belong in this sector of space. Your presence here ends today. We are a peaceful colony, Mitchell replied. We have families here. Children. We can discuss any territorial disputes through diplomatic channels. There will be no discussion. Inferior species do not negotiate with the Kethmoran hegemony. You will be removed. The first city died in minutes. Energy beams rained down from the ships above. Buildings that had stood for decades melted like ice in summer heat. Parks where children played became craters of burning earth. The hospital where Dr. Williams delivered babies every week disappeared in a flash of red light. Sarah reached the cave's surface entrance as the second wave of attacks began. Through the cave mouth, she could see the town of New Haven burning. The place where she bought groceries every week was gone. The school where her friend taught was a pile of smoking rubble. She activated the emergency communication system built into the cave relay. Her fingers shook as she tried to connect to the quantum transmission array. If she could get a message to the nearest human outpost, maybe someone could send help. The transmission system flickered to life. Sarah began recording her message, not knowing if anyone would ever receive it. This is Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiologist assigned to New Eden Colony. We are under attack by unknown alien forces calling themselves the Kethmoran hegemony. They are systematically destroying all human settlements. The colony is lost. 2.5 million civilians are being murdered. Please, someone needs to know what happened here. On the main Kethmoran command ship, Admiral Dhekvar watched the destruction with satisfaction. His species had conquered 47 worlds. Each conquest followed the same pattern. Arrive with overwhelming force. Destroy all resistance. Remove the inferior species. Claim the world for the hegemony. Humans were no different from the other weak races they had eliminated. Dhekvar had studied human settlements in this region. Small populations, light defenses, no significant military presence. The perfect targets for expansion. Admiral, his weapons officer, reported, the primary settlements have been eliminated. Shall we begin surface bombardment of the remaining structures? Proceed, Dhekvar replied. Leave nothing standing. I want other species in this sector to understand what happens when they occupy worlds meant for the Kethmoran. The bombardment continued for 6 hours. Every human settlement on New Eden was reduced to ash and crater. The farms that fed other worlds burned. The crystal trees that children loved to climb exploded from the heat of energy beams. Sarah watched her world die from the safety of the deep caves. The communication array overloaded and died after her message was sent. She hoped someone had received it. She hoped someone would remember that New Eden had existed. As night fell, the Kethmoran ships departed. They left behind a dead world. No human structures remained standing. The lakes boiled from the orbital bombardment. The silver forests were black stumps reaching toward an empty sky. In the darkness of the caves, Sarah Chun became the only human witness to the complete destruction of New Eden Colony. She had no way to know if her message had reached anyone. She had no way to know that her desperate transmission would travel through quantum relays across the galaxy. She had no way to know that her words would soon reach the most dangerous species in the known universe, humanity. The quantum relay station orbiting Jupiter received Dr. Chen's transmission 6 weeks after New Eden died. The message traveled through a network of communication nodes that connected every human world. It was marked as an emergency transmission, which meant it bypassed normal communication traffic. Lieutenant Commander Rosa Santos was monitoring the relay station when the message arrived. She had been doing routine maintenance checks when her computer started flashing red warning lights. Emergency transmissions were rare. The last one had been 3 years ago, when a mining accident trapped workers on Titan. Santos opened the message file and watched in horror as Dr. Chun's desperate words filled her screen. The video showed a woman covered in cave dust, her face streaked with tears. Behind her, the cave entrance glowed orange from fires burning outside. This is Dr. Sarah Chun, xenobiologist assigned to New Eden Colony. We are under attack by unknown alien forces calling themselves the Kethmoran hegemony. Santos had family on New Eden. Her brother Miguel had moved there with his wife and 3 children after leaving the Earth Defense Force. He wanted his kids to grow up somewhere peaceful, somewhere safe. She sent the message through priority channels to Earth Defense Command immediately. Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb was in his office on Luna Base when the transmission reached him. He had been reviewing supply reports for the outer colonies. Webb was 62 years old and had served in the Earth Defense Force for 40 years. He had seen 3 wars and countless skirmishes. Nothing in his experience prepared him for what he was about to watch. The message played on his wall screen. Dr. Chun's voice cracked as she described the alien attack. The transmission showed brief glimpses of burning cities through the cave entrance. Webb could hear explosions in the background. He could hear people screaming. When the message ended, Webb sat in silence for a long moment. His daughter Elena had lived on New Eden. She was a teacher at the primary school in New Haven. His grandchildren went to that school. His son-in-law worked at the Agricultural Research Center. Webb activated his communication system and called for an emergency session of the Earth Defense Council. The council chamber filled within 2 hours. Representatives from every major human world attended either in person or through holographic projection. Webb stood before them, his face grim. Behind him, the wall displayed a star map showing New Eden's location on the edge of human space. 6 weeks ago, the colony of New Eden was attacked and completely destroyed by an alien force calling itself the Kethmoran hegemony. Webb began. 2.5 million human civilians were murdered. Every settlement was burned to the ground. We have one survivor. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. Councilor Martinez from Mars stood up first. How is this possible? New Eden had orbital defenses. They had early warning systems. Webb played Dr. Chun's transmission for the council. The chamber fell silent as they watched the young scientist's desperate message. Some counselors looked away when the camera showed burning cities in the background. This was not a raid or a border skirmish. Webb continued after the message ended. This was genocide. The aliens gave no warning. They made no demands. They simply destroyed every human presence on that world. Counselor Thompson from Europa spoke next. What do we know about these Kethmoran? Have we had any previous contact? None, replied Admiral Chang, head of intelligence. Our exploration fleets have never encountered this species. They appear to come from a region beyond our current mapping surveys. Based on Dr. Chun's description, they possess superior military technology. Webb activated another display. It showed the defense doctrine that humanity had developed over centuries of warfare. Since the Mars Wars, our species has maintained a simple principle. An attack on human civilians is an attack on all humanity. We do not negotiate with those who murder our families. We do not seek proportional response. We eliminate the threat completely. The vote was scheduled for the following morning, but Webb knew what the result would be. Humanity had learned hard lessons during the colony wars. When someone threatened human families, every human world responded as one. That night, Webb walked through the corridors of Luna Base. He passed the memorial wall where the names of fallen soldiers were carved in black stone. Soon, he knew, they would need a much larger wall, one that could hold 2.5 million names. In his quarters, Webb looked at a picture of Elena and her children. His daughter had sent the photo just before the last communication from New Eden. The kids were playing in a park, their faces bright with laughter. Elena stood behind them, smiling. Now they were all gone, turned to ash by aliens who saw humans as nothing more than pests to be removed. The vote was unanimous. Every council member voted to authorize military action against the Kethmoran hegemony. The resolution was simple. Find them. Destroy their ability to wage war. Make them pay for what they did to New Eden. Webb was given supreme command of the operation. He activated protocols that had never been used before. Emergency mobilization orders went out to every human world. Military reserves were called to active duty. Civilian shipyards received orders to convert merchant vessels to military configuration. The response shocked even Webb. Within days, reports came back from across human space. Mars would contribute 50,000 warships. The Belt colonies offered another 60,000. The outer worlds pledged their entire defense fleets. Earth itself began pulling ships from mothball yards that hadn't been active since the Mars Wars. But it was the industrial worlds that provided the real surprise. Planets that built cargo haulers and mining ships revealed that every civilian vessel came with military conversion packages. Merchant ships could be turned into destroyers in days. Cargo haulers became troop transports. Mining vessels became heavy assault ships. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for 2 centuries. Not consciously, but instinctively. Every human world maintained strategic reserves. Every major shipyard could switch to warship production within hours. Every adult civilian had basic military training. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They thought humans were weak because they lived peacefully. They didn't understand that humans chose peace because they were strong enough to maintain it within 1 month. 300,000 warships were either active or under construction. The largest military fleet in human history was assembling its staging areas. Throughout human space. Webb named the operation Righteous Fury. It was time to show the galaxy what happened when someone decided to murder human children. The Kethmoran hegemony had destroyed 1 human world. Now humanity was coming to destroy them. The shipyards of Mars had not seen activity like this since the colony wars. Giant construction bays that had been building cargo ships and passenger liners suddenly switched to military production. The red planet sky filled with sparks from welding torches, and the bright flames of fusion drives being tested. Director Hassan watched from the observation deck as his workers transformed the massive merchant vessel, Golden Harvest, into a destroyer. The conversion took only 3 days. Hidden weapon mounts emerged from concealed panels. Civilian sensors were replaced with military-grade targeting systems. The cargo holds became missile magazines. How many more can we convert? Admiral Webb asked during his inspection visit. Every merchant ship in the system, Hassan replied. We've been building them with military conversion capability for decades. The Merchant Marine insisted on it after the Titan incident. They said civilians should be able to defend themselves. Webb nodded. He was learning that humanity had been preparing for war without realizing it. Every peaceful decision had included planning for violence. Every civilian system had military applications. On Europa, the ice mining platforms revealed their true purpose. The massive fusion drills used to extract water from the moon's surface were being mounted on warship hulls. The same tools that carved through kilometers of ice could punch holes in enemy armor. Captain Stevens supervised the conversion of the mining ship Deep Bore into an assault vessel. His crew of ice miners worked with military engineers to install weapon systems. The miners knew their equipment better than anyone. They suggested modifications that made the weapons even more deadly. These drills can cut through anything, Stevens explained to Webb during another inspection. We use them to reach water deposits 3 kilometers down. Enemy armor won't slow them down. The belt colonies contributed something even more impressive. Their asteroid mining ships came equipped with mass drivers, capable of throwing chunks of rock at incredible speeds. Originally designed to move ore between asteroids, the weapons could launch projectiles with the force of nuclear bombs. Admiral Reyes commanded the Belt Defense Force. She had spent 20 years turning asteroid miners into the most deadly space fighters in the system. Her pilots could navigate asteroid fields at speeds that terrified regular military crews. We've been fighting pirates and claim jumpers for decades, she told Webb. Our miners know how to fight dirty. They know how to use every asteroid as cover. They know how to turn space debris into weapons. But the real shock came from Earth itself. The homeworld had seemed peaceful for decades. Most people thought Earth's military was small and focused on defense. They were wrong. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, automated shipyards had been building warships for 2 centuries. The facilities were hidden from orbital observation. They operated continuously, adding ships to secret reserves that no one talked about. Admiral Park commanded the Pacific Fleet operations. When Webb visited the underwater facilities, he couldn't believe what he saw. Thousands of warships filled underwater caverns. Some were designs he had never seen before. Others were experimental vessels that pushed the limits of human technology. How long have these existed? Webb asked. Since the first colony ships left Earth, Park replied. The Earth Defense Council decided that humanity needed insurance. If something happened to the colonies, Earth would be ready. If something threatened our species, we would not be defenseless. The ships were more advanced than anything in the regular fleet. They used weapons that had been tested in secret for decades. Energy systems that could power entire cities. Shields that could stop any known weapon. Faster-than-light drives that made regular ships look slow. We've been preparing for a war we hoped would never come, Park explained. But we always knew that someday, humanity would face an enemy that wanted to destroy us completely. Today is that day. The mobilization revealed the true nature of human civilization. Every peaceful colony had hidden military reserves. Every trade ship could become a warship. Every civilian had military training. Every industry could switch to war production within hours. The outer colonies contributed their own surprises. Worlds that seemed to focus on agriculture and mining revealed massive defense networks. Orbital fortresses disguised as space stations. Planetary shields hidden beneath civilian infrastructure. Weapons platforms that looked like communication arrays. Colonel Martinez commanded the defenses of New Terra, a farming world near the frontier. When Webb visited, he found underground bunkers that could shelter the entire population. Automated defense systems that could hold off a fleet. Hidden shipyards that built patrol vessels disguised as farm equipment. Every frontier world learned the same lesson, Martinez explained. You have to be able to defend yourself. Pirates, raiders, hostile aliens, somebody always wants to take what you've built. So we prepared for everything. The coordination was perfect. Within weeks, 300,000 warships assembled at staging areas throughout human space. Support vessels numbering in the millions provided logistics, medical care, and maintenance. Every ship crew trained together using simulation systems that had been developed over centuries. Webb established his command center on Luna Base. From there, he could coordinate the largest military operation in human history. The numbers still amazed him. Humanity had built enough warships to conquer most of known space. They had done it quietly, over generations, without anyone noticing. Intelligence reports came in from other species throughout the galaxy. The alien races were watching human fleet movements with growing alarm. The Galactic Commerce Guild sent nervous communications asking about human intentions. The Praxian Federation offered to mediate any conflicts. None of them understood what they were seeing. They thought humans were mobilizing for conquest. They didn't realize this was a funeral procession. Humanity was coming to bury their dead and make sure no one ever murdered human families again. The final surprise came from unexpected sources. Human colonies that had been out of contact for decades suddenly reappeared. Lost colony ships that had found distant worlds sent messages offering military support. Generation ships that had been traveling for centuries changed course to join the fleet. Some ships arrived from so far away that they used technology Webb didn't recognize. Vessels that seemed to bend space around them. Weapons that existed in multiple dimensions. Humans who had evolved in strange environments but still remembered Earth. How many of us are there? Webb wondered as he watched the fleet reports. The answer came from the census computers. Across known space, humanity numbered over 500 billion people. They lived on thousands of worlds. They controlled more territory than any other species. And every single one of them was ready to fight for the memory of New Eden. The Kethmoran had killed 2.5 million humans. Now they faced the anger of 500 billion. The fleet was ready. The weapons were charged. The course was plotted toward Kethmoran space. It was time to teach the galaxy what human fury looked like. Admiral Lekvar was enjoying his victory celebration when the first reports reached him. His officers had gathered in the command chamber of his flagship to commemorate another successful conquest. The destruction of the human colony had been easier than expected. Weak defenses. No significant resistance. Another inferior species removed from Kethmoran space. Admiral, his intelligence officer reported, "We're receiving communications from our border monitoring stations. They report unusual activity in human territory." Lekvar barely looked up from his ceremonial drink. The liquid glowed purple in the crystal cup, a tradition after every successful campaign. "What kind of activity?" "Increased ship movements. Our observers count several thousand vessels moving toward our borders." "Several thousand?" Lekvar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "The humans are angry about their little farming world. Send word to the border fleets. Destroy any human ships that enter our space. Show them what happens when inferior species challenge the hegemony." The Kethmoran had fought dozens of wars over the past century. They had conquered 47 worlds and eliminated 23 different species. Their military doctrine was simple: overwhelming force against weak enemies. No species had ever been able to match their technology or their ruthlessness. Humans appeared to be no different. The intelligence reports showed small populations spread across distant worlds. Light military presence. Peaceful settlements focused on trade and agriculture. The perfect targets for expansion. 3 days later, the reports changed. "Admiral," the intelligence officer returned, his voice uncertain. "The border stations are reporting different numbers. They now count over 50,000 human ships approaching our territory." Lekvar frowned. 50,000 ships was unusual for a minor species, but not impossible. Perhaps the humans had called in support from allied races. It didn't matter. The Kethmoran border fleets numbered over 100,000 vessels. They could handle any human response. "Increase patrols along the border," he ordered. "Prepare the third battle fleet for possible engagement." But the numbers kept growing. By the end of the week, Kethmoran observers reported 100,000 human ships. Then 200,000. The reports became more frantic as the numbers climbed higher. General Kexton commanded the border defenses at Sektar, a fortress world that guarded the main approach to Kethmoran space. He had never seen anything like the human fleet that appeared on his long-range sensors. The formation stretched across half the star system. Ships of every size and configuration moved in perfect coordination. The humans maintained exact spacing and timing. Their communication discipline was flawless. No chatter. No unnecessary signals. Just cold, professional efficiency. "How many ships are we looking at?" Kexton asked his sensor officer. "Computer estimates 300,000 vessels, General. But the formation is so large that our sensors cannot count them all accurately." Kexton stared at the tactical display. 300,000 warships. No species in known space possessed such military strength. The Kethmoran hegemony itself had never assembled a fleet half that size. "This must be an error," he muttered. "Run the sensor sweep again." The numbers came back the same. 300,000 human warships approaching Sektar at steady speed. No threats broadcast. No demands transmitted. They just kept coming. Kexton sent an urgent report to Admiral Lekvar. The response came back within hours. "Impossible. Humans are a minor species. Our intelligence indicates they possess limited military capability. Your sensors must be malfunctioning." But the sensors were working perfectly. The human fleet arrived at Sektar exactly when the computers predicted. They took positions throughout the star system with mechanical precision. Every ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. The first contact came when a single human vessel approached the fortress world. It was smaller than most Kethmoran ships, but its hull gleamed with weapons that Kexthan didn't recognize. The ship maintained perfect formation, even as defensive batteries targeted it. A transmission came from the human vessel. The voice was calm and professional, speaking in perfect Kethmoran language. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force vessel Retribution. We are here to discuss your recent attack on our colony at New Eden. You have 1 hour to surrender your military forces and prepare for occupation." Kexthan couldn't believe what he was hearing. A single human ship was demanding surrender from a fortified star system. "Human vessel, you are vastly outnumbered. Our defenses can destroy your entire fleet." "General," the human captain replied, "you have 58 minutes remaining." The battle began when Kexthan ordered his defense batteries to open fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human fleet. The Kethmoran had never faced an enemy that could withstand their concentrated firepower. What happened next changed everything. The Kethmoran thought they knew about warfare. The human ships moved like living creatures. They twisted and turned through space with impossible grace. Their defensive systems intercepted incoming fire with perfect accuracy. Energy beams that should have destroyed them passed harmlessly through defensive barriers, but it was the human weapons that truly terrified the Kethmoran defenders. Energy blasts that turned matter into plasma, missiles that could think and adapt, projectile weapons that fired chunks of metal at speeds that defied physics. The fortress world shields, designed to stop any known weapon, collapsed within minutes. Defense platforms that had protected Sector for decades simply vanished in balls of white fire. The orbital stations where thousands of Kethmoran soldiers lived and worked became expanding clouds of debris. General Kexthan watched his defenses die from the command bunker deep beneath Sector's surface. His communications officer tried to contact the surviving ships, but most had stopped responding. Those that remained reported the same thing. Human weapons were unlike anything they had encountered. "Sir," his aide reported, voice shaking, "the surface batteries have been eliminated. The orbital fortresses are gone. We've lost contact with the 3rd Defense Fleet." On his tactical display, Kexthan watched red dots disappear one by one. Each dot represented hundreds of Kethmoran soldiers. Ships that had served the hegemony for decades were being destroyed in seconds. The humans hadn't even used their main fleet. The attack came from a small advance force, while the majority of human ships waited in perfect formation. They watched the battle with the patience of predators who knew the outcome was never in doubt. Captain Morrison's voice came through the communications again. "General, your time is up. Surrender now, or we will demonstrate what our main fleet can do." Kexthan looked at his remaining forces. Less than 10% of his ships were still operational. The planet's defenses were completely destroyed. His soldiers were trapped in underground bunkers, while human ships controlled the space above them. "What do you want?" he asked. "Information," Morrison replied. "We want to know everything about your hegemony. Fleet positions, military strength, command structure, and we want to know where to find Admiral Vekvar, the murderer who destroyed New Eden." The battle at Sector lasted 47 minutes. When it ended, the Kethmoran border defenses had been completely eliminated. News of the defeat spread through the hegemony faster than official reports. Survivors described weapons that seemed like magic, ships that moved without following the laws of physics, humans who fought with cold precision and perfect coordination. Admiral Vekvar received the reports in his command center. The descriptions seemed impossible. No species possessed such military capability. But the evidence was overwhelming. Sector had fallen. The border defenses were gone. 300,000 human ships were advancing into Kethmoran space. For the first time in his military career, Dagmar felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The humans were not the weak species his intelligence had described. They were something far more dangerous. They were efficient killers who had been hiding their true strength. And now they were coming for him. The hunt for Admiral Dagmar had begun. The human fleet arrived at the Kethmoran homeworld like a storm made of metal and fire. 300,000 warships filled the space around the planet, their formations so vast it could be seen from the surface with the naked eye. The sight brought terror to every Kethmoran who looked up at their sky. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of his flagship, the New Eden's Vengeance, and watched the enemy homeworld on his main screen. The planet below was heavily fortified. Orbital defense platforms surrounded it like a metal ring. Thousands of warships protected the approaches. The Kethmoran had turned their homeworld into the strongest fortress in the galaxy, thought it wasn't strong enough. Communications, Webb ordered. Open a channel to the planetary government. The response came immediately. The Kethmoran leadership had been expecting this moment since news of Sektar's fall reached them. Premier Vexmiran appeared on the screen, his alien features twisted with fear and anger. Human fleet, the Premier began. You have entered Kethmoran space illegally. Withdraw immediately, or we will be forced to destroy you. Webb's expression didn't change. Premier Vexmiran, I am Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb of the Earth Defense Force. We are here to discuss your recent attack on New Eden Colony. You murdered 2.5 million human civilians. We have come for justice. That colony was built on territory claimed by the hegemony, Vexmiran replied. We had every right to remove trespassers. You had no right to murder children, Webb said quietly. You will surrender unconditionally. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your government will be restructured under human oversight. And you will spend the next century paying for the lives you took. The Premier's response was predictable. Never. The Kethmoran hegemony does not surrender to inferior species. Our defenses will destroy your fleet. Webb had expected this answer. He closed the communication channel and turned to his tactical officer. Commander Chan, demonstrate the difference between our civilizations. The demonstration lasted exactly 3 minutes. A single human ship, the destroyer, Sarah's voice, approached the massive orbital defense platform directly above the planet's capital city. The platform was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons that could level continents. It represented the pinnacle of Kethmoran military engineering. The destroyer fired once. The weapon was something the Kethmoran had never seen. It didn't launch missiles or energy beams. Instead, it created a bubble of altered space around the platform. For a moment, the massive structure seemed to fold in on itself. Then it simply disappeared, leaving empty space where thousands of tons of metal and weapons had been. The silence that followed was deafening. Every Kethmoran watching realized that their strongest defense had been eliminated by a single shot from one human ship. If the humans wanted to destroy their planet, nothing could stop them. Webb opened communications again. Premier, you now understand our capabilities. We could destroy your entire world in minutes. We choose not to. Surrender, and your people will live. This time, the Premier's voice shook. What? What guarantee do you give us? The same guarantee you gave to New Eden, Webb replied. None. You will trust in our mercy, just as our people trusted in yours. The Premier looked at his advisors. They all gave the same response. The humans possessed weapons beyond their understanding. Resistance was impossible. Survival required surrender. We yield, Vexmiran said finally. The occupation of the Kethmoran homeworld proceeded with mechanical efficiency. Human Marines landed at key locations while the fleet maintained perfect formation above. There was no resistance. The Kethmoran military had seen what happened to their strongest defenses. They knew fighting was useless. Admiral Dekvar was found in a bunker beneath the military command center. He had been trying to organize a resistance movement when human soldiers broke down his door. The alien who had casually ordered the genocide of New Eden now cowered before young human marines. Webb visited Dekvar in his prison cell. The Kethmoran admiral was secured behind energy barriers that he couldn't break or bypass. For the first time in his life, Dekvar was helpless. "You are the one called Webb," Dekvar said. "I studied your military records after Sektar fell. You lost family on the colony world." "My daughter Elena," Webb replied. "My grandchildren Marcus and Sarah. They lived in New Haven. I did not know their names when we destroyed that place," Dekvar said. "They were simply numbers in our reports. Obstacles to be removed." Webb studied the alien through the energy barrier. "That was your mistake. You thought humans were obstacles. We are not obstacles. We are families. We are children and parents and grandparents who love each other. When you murder our families, we don't just fight for territory or resources. We fight for the memory of everyone we've lost. Your species fights with unusual coordination," Dekvar observed. "We have never faced such disciplined forces." "We've been practicing," Webb said simply. "For thousands of years, we've been learning how to work together, how to fight together, how to die together if necessary. You thought we were weak because we choose peace. You didn't understand that we choose peace because we're strong enough to maintain it." Dekvar leaned forward. "How did your species become so powerful?" "Our intelligence indicated you were a minor civilization." Webb smiled for the first time since New Eden died. "That's the thing about humans, Admiral. We plan ahead. Every peaceful colony has hidden defenses. Every merchant ship can become a warship. Every civilian knows how to fight. We've been preparing for war for centuries, hoping we would never need to use what we built. And now? Now you've taught the galaxy what happens when someone decides to murder human families. The lesson will not be forgotten." The trials began immediately. Kethmoran officers who had participated in the New Eden genocide faced human military courts. The evidence was overwhelming. Video recordings from their own ships showed the systematic destruction of civilian targets. Audio files captured their orders to eliminate all human presence. The sentences were swift and final. Those who had given orders to murder civilians faced execution. Those who had carried out the orders faced life imprisonment. The Kethmoran military structure that had conquered dozens of worlds was dismantled completely. But Webb's greatest victory came when he received a message from the deep caves of New Eden. Dr. Sarah. Chun was alive. Human rescue teams had found her in the underground caverns, weak but breathing. She had survived for months eating cave plants and drinking underground water. "Dr. Chun," Webb said when he visited her in the medical station, "your message saved our species. Because of your courage, the galaxy now knows what happens when someone attacks human civilians." Sarah looked up at him with tired eyes. "Did we win?" "We won," Webb confirmed. "The Kethmoran will never threaten humans again. And other species throughout the galaxy are reconsidering their opinions about humanity." Sarah smiled. It was the first genuine smile anyone had seen from her since New Eden died. "Elena Webb was my friend. She talked about her father all the time. She was proud of you." Webb felt tears he had been holding back for months finally escape. "She would be proud of you too, Sarah. You made sure her death meant something." The reconstruction of New Eden began immediately. Human engineers and terraforming specialists worked to repair the damage done by the Kethmoran bombardment. The crystal trees were replanted. The cities were rebuilt. The schools where children had played were constructed exactly as they had been before. But at the center of the main city, a new memorial was built. Black stone walls contained the names of every human who died during the attack. At the top of the memorial, words were carved in letters that could be seen from orbit. They came in peace. They died for no crime except being human. We will remember. We will never forgive. The galaxy learned its lesson quickly. Within months, dozens of species sent diplomatic missions to human space. Trade agreements were signed. Non-aggression pacts were negotiated. Everyone wanted to avoid the fate of the Kethmorn hegemony. The message was clear throughout known space. Humans could be friends, allies, and trading partners. They preferred peace and cooperation. They built beautiful colonies and welcomed other species to share their worlds. But if you murdered human families, they would find you. They would bring 300,000 warships to your doorstep. They would dismantle your civilization stone by stone. And they would make sure the galaxy remembered what happened when someone decided that human lives didn't matter. Admiral Dekvar spent his remaining years in a human prison, thinking about the choices people had made. They could have contacted the humans diplomatically. They could have negotiated for territory or resources. They could have found peaceful solutions. Instead, they had chosen genocide. And they had learned too late that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their ships or their technology. It was their love for each other and their promise to never let anyone hurt their families again.